welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. This is part 2 of the playthrough of the City of Kings. I'm really excited to get back to this game. We left off with Calamus Earthshaker here in the Inn of Lost Hope. Talora the Blessed, she is in the Cogshed Works. And we also have 2 of our workers currently working away in the Granite Halls. And we've been gathering lots and lots of ore. We got all kinds of ore here with our worker 1 for Talora the Blessed. And then over here for Calamus, we have 2 ore currently stored. So we're going to be going into a brand new round with the object in mind being to complete Chapter 1 of Story 1. So these are our objectives here. In the very bottom right of the Oakwood card here, it has an objective to travel to Oakwood, and at least 1 hero must be on the map tile when the story resolves. So at the beginning of every round, we check to see whether the story resolves, and as of right now, that wouldn't happen because we do not have a single hero here. I'm hoping during this current round, we'll get one of these 2 characters to land and be here for the beginning of the next one. So that's going to be one of my goals, and only one of them has to be here, so the other one can kind of go off and maybe explore a little bit. So without further ado, let's begin the start of this particular round. So we're going to go ahead, skip past the resolving of the story and move to the time tracker. So we're going to come over to our time tracker, which was previously on late morning, and we're going to move this thing to midday. Now this is going to be pointing at a poison marker, which isn't going to come into effect because there is no poison in the game yet, but when it does, when that particular thing lands on that time tracker, it's going to adjust or weaken the poison tokens that are currently in the game. So we'll talk about that more when that actually happens. Okay, so at this particular point, let's get right into the player turns. So we're going to start the player turns off with Talora the Blessed. However, I'm going to first use an action to move Talora's worker back to the City of Kings to drop off all the wonderful ore that was gathered from the last video. So the very first thing to do in order to do that is to actually make note of it down here. So we're going to go ahead for worker number 1 and make a movement action. So it's going to allow us to take the worker, which is yellow, which matches Talora the Blessed. Worker number 1, move to the City of Kings. Now, all of the ore, the second that a worker moves into the City of Kings, anything that the particular worker is carrying, this is outside of actions, gets dumped into the old barn. So basically, all of this ore will then go into the old barn. And the easy thing about this is that all of this, all these resources that are sitting in this area right here, can just basically disappear, go back to the tray. So there's 5 of them. Just remember the number whenever you do this, then head back over to the old barn, and then you'd only throw them all away if you actually have an ore here already, which I do because I already have 1 ore stored. Now I have 6 ore stored, so that's not bad at all. Okay, so now that we got that, I'm keeping my eye as well, guys, on the trade district. You'll notice that I got a bunch of items that I could create at some point in time, but most of them need fish. Actually, all of them need fish or food, so we are going to need to find some at some point along the way here, but besides that, we've got a decent amount of stuff here in the old barn. Now, the cool thing about moving your worker into the City of Kings, that's 1 movement. I can then move this worker back out within that same action. Now, if I was using, the only reason this is allowed is because the actual ability to drop off your resources into the old barn when you land here with a worker that has resources, it's automatic. It's not part of the actual worker actions. So typically when you're making movement, you can't break up your movement because you can't do an action in between it. But when you're moving your worker back to the City of Kings, that is not considered when the resources are dropped off the old barn an actual action. So that's really cool and a really easy way to make use of one action from your character board here in order to get a couple things done. So that was pretty handy. At this point now, I'm going to probably have Talora the Blessed be the one that heads over to Oakwood, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a move action on Talora. And we're going to probably use an explore action for her as well, because we want to find out what is sitting in between this space. So first we're going to move here, and then we're going to reveal this tile and find out what we found. We've got Cripplewood Canyons, and it looks like we found our very first creature. So it seems that Talora the Blessed has found Cripplewood Canyons, which is a creature tile. So the second that you find a creature tile with that keyword in the bottom right-hand corner, you need to go ahead and set up a creature, which means this is going to be the very first creature that I've encountered. So let's go through the process of setting one up right now. This step is completely up to you. You can go about this however you want. You can do it thematically, pick it randomly, go through your template, monster templates, and pick whichever one you'd like. I'm going to choose the Hand of Vesh because I think it's very thematic for this particular playthrough right now. So the Hand of Vesh is going to be the template, and again, this is actually showing up on Talora's card. So this is going to be showing up on her side of the board as she's going to be in control of it. We're going to put this up here at the top because it's our first monster template that showed up. If any future ones come in, we're going to put them underneath, and you're supposed to always have them going normally from left to right, but in my case I'll do them from top to bottom. So once you got your template in place, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to come over here and grab the very first monster template, which is number 1 for 2, and there are our stats. Now this is also going to signify whether we need to pull any abilities and of what type. It's green, so it's going to be from the easy ability bag. So we're going to go ahead and put this stat bar on the bottom just like this, and then we're going to come over here and look at the easy bag because we're going to be pulling something out of here. We also have to take a look at the tile because in some cases, not this one, there'll sometimes be some colored symbols up here in the top left, which may tell us to pull additional abilities from this bag, but in this case there isn't, so we're just going into this bag and randomly pulling one out. And in this case, there's just one, so can't be too bad, right? We got the Frostbolt 24. So we're going to go ahead over here. We're going to place that right up in the top left-hand corner, just like that. All right, and that basically sets up the first little bit of the monster. The next step is its health. So you can see here from this particular character stat bar, it's at 3, so we need to take a cube denoting 3 and put that right here for its health. There is still one step remaining, and that is getting the matching war banner to the monster template that we picked out. So you want to make sure that the picture is exactly the same, and then you're going to go ahead and put that exactly where the monster showed up. So in this case, the Cripplewood Canyon. So I'm going to move Talora the Blessed a little bit over so we can see a little better. So right here is where one of the monsters has first shown up. All right, so this is going to impact kind of what we want to do going forward here as we currently have a monster in our space. So let's talk a little bit about what our next actions are going to be as we still and only have one remaining. Here's a close-up of the creature abilities, and I really want to focus on one of them, the one that actually showed up for the Hand of Vesh enemy that showed up on us. And the ability to pull from the bag, the easy bag, was called Frostbolt. And you can see here that it says place 1 weak frost token on the map tile the creature's priority target is on. So this isn't going to happen when we first set up the monster, but later on when the creature activates, then that is going to trigger. That ability is going to trigger. It's going to cause frost in a particular area. So we're going to have to remember that. Now you might be wondering where this came from. There is also an amazing reference inside the quick reference rulebook inside of the box itself. But this is actually a printout from Board Game Geek, which is a fantastic one-page summary of all of the creature abilities. And I really want to thank the individual that created this and putting it together because it makes life so much easier. So just to clarify in terms of where we are in the priority order of the round, we've already done the story, we've done the time tracker, we're now in player turns. We technically went into the player turn, we didn't have to resolve any impairments, so we skipped past that. We didn't have any active creatures at the time, so we skipped past that. And we were in our hero and worker actions for one of our characters when this particular monster was set up. So we're not going to have to worry about this creature activating because it says here hero and worker actions are now going to be taking place at this particular time, and the activation of creatures is only going to trigger based on who's controlling them. So in this case, Talora the Blessed is controlling this particular creature, so it will not activate until the next round of the game. For the last action that Talora has to spend, I'm likely going to trigger an attack on this monster because I want to injure it, and I also want to weaken it so that when Calamus' turn comes around, he can come in being the stronger of the two characters, being that he recently upgraded his attack from a 1 to a 2 in the primary section there. So we can actually kill this thing off before this thing ever even gets to trigger, is my hope. So let's go ahead and try that strategy. At the same time, Calamus is hoping now to be the person that will come this way and go into the Oakwood and land on it, whereas Talora is going to run out of actions, essentially. But this will still work out, I think. So what we're going to do here is have Talora make an attack against this particular, the Hand of Vesh monster. Now when an attack happens, you basically are going to choose a character in range. So of course right now my range, you'll have to lift the cube to see it, but it is a 1. So you'll notice that I am absolutely within range, being that I'm within 1. I can actually attack anything around me, going north, south, east, west. So again, I am totally in range there, so no issues on that front. I'm going to calculate the damage by taking a look at my base attack value, which you can see for Talora the Blast is simply just a 1. So we're going to have 1 attack value going against the monster, which isn't that much. If my luck had have been higher, then I would have been able to potentially roll a luck die, which looks like this, for every single luck stat that I've increased, essentially. So what you might have noticed, guys, earlier on the playthrough is I think I had this cube in the wrong position. I've recently corrected it. So if you go back a few minutes, you might have noticed it was sitting here. It shouldn't have been. It should have always been sitting like this. You don't get luck to start with. You have to earn it, and it's a slow progression up to 3. But if I ever did have it, it would allow me to roll and add to, potentially, if the roll's good, add to my attack value. So in this case, it's a very easy calculation because it's just a simple 1 hit. And there's no shields whatsoever on this Hand of Vesh minion or monster, so there's going to be nothing to stop it from taking the damage, so it will take the 1 damage. So 1 damage has been hit. I do have to record that I've actually taken that attack action, which I've done now, and now Talora's turn has completely resolved. All right, let's move into Calamus Earthshaker's turn. So the very first thing that Calamus wants to do is definitely help Talora out. So right now we're in a range of 1 away. So Talora currently is there with a monster in the Cripplewood Canyons. And so we're going to want Calamus to do some damage to this monster so that we can help Talora out, as well as get Calamus to the Oakwood resource tile in order to complete our main objective that we talked about earlier on in the video. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to attack. So the very first action I'm going to take with the Earthshaker is I'm going to attack. And by doing so, the Earthshaker is going to take a look at his attack value, which is 2, because we bumped that up as one of the, when we did one of our first level ups here, which was the green cube to the left of the 2. We got a stat increase, and we chose for Calamus to be a little stronger. So 2 damage will be coming against the creature, which currently has 2 health and absolutely no armor whatsoever. So the awesome thing with this is when a creature is killed off, simply this red is going to go to the end of the track. This creature is now killed. We're going to take all of this and remove it away and out of the picture for now. The ability will end up going back in the bag. The red cube goes away. And of course, the actual monster war banner will also disappear. The other thing I'm going to do is take a quick look at this actual tile, or the stat bar, I should say, to see what we actually gained. And it looks like we're going to gain 2 XP. So that's awesome. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come over here to our XP track, and we're going to notice that we're going to go up 1 and then 2. This is going to push us above another stat cube increase for going past level 2. So let's gain those rewards now. So Calamus, being the individual that he is, I'm kind of tempted to actually start the luck track for him. So now we're going to have a luck die to roll when we start attacking. Maybe that will also add in, it's going to also help him with other things, but a luck die is fantastic to roll. And we'll see how that's used as we go through the playthrough. So that's the increase I'm going to use for him. Coming over here to Laura. Laura, on the other hand, is really working towards getting her workers up to 4. So I'm going to continue her movement up the gather track to 3. I really want to get to the point of getting to 4 so I can unlock my second worker. That would be fantastic. And on top of that, I get an extra action to start using, which is even better. So just so you guys are aware, just before we move into the second action for Calamus Earthshaker, is that the Frost Bolt ability that was sitting on the particular monster that we killed off there did go back and should go back into the bag that it came from. So that has been tossed back into the bag and shuffled back in. Everything else in terms of the war banner and everything else, I put the template as well over there on the side because I don't really want to see them again. I want to keep pulling new ones and keep grabbing new banners as we go through. So we're going to continue on with the second action for Calamus. Again, the most important thing is to get this Calamus to the Oakwood resource, but before he actually does that, I'm going to maybe have my worker go on a little bit of a journey. I want them to start staying a little bit closer to where my heroes are so that we don't get into any trouble in terms of, I don't know, anything happening to them, I guess. Technically, I have the ability to spend 1 movement to get Calamus to the objective, so I really have 2 to spend here in any way that I choose. So the question is, do I want to gather more ore? I don't really need more ore, but it wouldn't hurt. If I take a quick look around, I'm just checking to see... well, I guess technically we would have a better reward or better quest result on running low if we get 7 ore there. In terms of our trade district, we only need a single ore for each of those things, so they're not very ore heavy. In terms of creating anything like temporary, we could actually get to the point of being able to build a trap, which would be really cool with 8 ore. But again, I already have 8 ore with Calamus's worker right now, so I can actually return him to the City of King. So there's a question. So what if I had the worker move through the City of Kings, dropping off the resources, and then maybe head over this way? Might be kind of an interesting way to go about it. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. Let's do that. So we're gonna spend 1 action for the worker to move. I'm going to have worker number 1 go to the City of Kings. We're going to go ahead and take the 2 ore. We're going to drop them off on our way. Remember that in the rules, dropping off your resource in the City of Kings is not an action. It's not considered a worker action. It just happens automatically when your worker is in the City of Kings. And so we're going to continue our movement because I can move up to 2. And then what I'm going to do is, oh, I shouldn't say I can move up to 2. I cannot move up to 2. Shoot! I just noticed that my worker here only has 1 in terms of movement. So I am kind of restrained that way. I could move 1 more space. And I'm just realizing now that technically what I did before with Talora, when I moved this worker in and then back out, I couldn't have done either because Talora also has the movement for the worker set to 1. So I'm gonna bring this worker back to the City of Kings so that we play that correctly. So at this point in time, I still have 2 more actions on Calamus to spend. Again, I'm keeping 1 for his hero movement. I got 1 more thing I could do. But at this point, I don't know. Maybe moving the worker, maybe heading over towards where we are would be the best for now, I guess. Yeah, let's do that. Let's have the worker move again. So we'll have another move action. I'll have this worker move to here. And it's now in the shop. And then I'm going to go ahead and spend my last action for the Earthshaker. And the Earthshaker is going to go, Calamus here is going to go 1 and 2 because he actually does have 2 movement. And that's where we're going to end the player turn. So at this particular point, we are fully through the round summary. All right, so let's begin the next round of the City of Kings. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the round summary to resolve the story. So the Chapter 1 Oakwood card here, we have resolved. We have made it to the objective, which is travel to Oakwood. At least 1 hero must be on the map tile when the story resolves. So there we go. Oakwood is where this character is, and we get the rewards. So these 2 rewards right here are going to be 2 equipment cards that are going to be put into the trade district. So let's do that right now. Let's go up here and find out what we got. The first one is going to be the battle plate of the adventurer. That's pretty cool. It's a body slot, so we can actually use that one right away. Some really cool artwork on that. It only requires a log and a fish, so something we're going to think about for later. And what else we got here? Boots of Vesh, another cheap one. Awesome, that's awesome. So we might be able to get these items onto our characters quickly, so we definitely have some good options now. And those are our 2 rewards. And now we're going to move into the second chapter. So let's read that particular chapter right now. The Orc Hunt. At Oakwood, there is an eerie silence. In the ruins of a clearing, there lies a human scout in mottled gray, surrounded by the bodies of orcs and broken trees. The scout's body is covered with the injuries she sustained during her desperate fight. "Friends," she gasps. "I was tracking this band of Blood-Letter Orcs across the Mar when they captured me and brought me here." "Bloodletters," you groan? Since their savage arrival in the world 50 years ago, no orc had yet managed to cross the great River Mar. This meant that all the Ageless Realms were in danger. "Yes, even their own tribes seemed to hate these Bloodletters," the scout coughs in pain. "They were led by one called Hika Bloodmother, an orc chieftainess who bore the design of a black hand, and she gloated that there were many more coming this way. Set up. Instantly move all heroes to Oakwood." Interesting. So right now, we're going to have both of our characters move to Oakwood now. Let's see what else happens. What's our main objective here? Discover 3 creature tiles, including those already revealed in the Ageless Realms, green tiles, and defeat all visible creatures. Rewards, we gain a hope. Hey, gaining a hope is awesome. It keeps us away from losing the game. So let's go ahead and try to actually obtain that objective as fast as humanly possible. Now, taking a look at the Ageless Realms, the only creature tile that we currently have revealed and dealt with is Cripplewood Canyon. So we're going to need to find 2 more creature tiles in the green tile areas around. So we are close to 2. We can check these 2 out fairly quickly, being where our heroes are, and then we may have to wrap back around to get up to the top section. But we're going to go ahead and continue with the round summary now by moving the time tracker. So we're going to be moving from midday to the afternoon. And of course, if frost was involved on the map, it would be dissipating at this point, but there is none, so we'll skip past that. And we're going to jump into the player turns. We're going to go ahead and resolve any impairments. We don't have any. And we're going to activate creatures, of course, but neither hero has them. Again, you do both of those steps per player when each of them are activated. I just thought I'd let you guys know up front. We don't obviously have any impairments on either of our heroes yet, and no creatures that could potentially activate. So we'll be doing some clear sailing through Talora's turn and then Calamus's turn. So here we go. All right, Talora the Blessed. 4 actions to spend. What shall we do? Well, the very first thing we can think about is the fact that the worker is in the City of Kings. We may want to get the worker somewhere that's a little more productive. I'm thinking to maybe send, seeing as we're having this worker kind of heading to the right, I'm thinking of splitting them up, basically. And my mindset behind that, you might be wondering why I'm doing that, is because the plan will be to reveal these 2 tiles with these 2 heroes, or maybe just one of them will reveal these 2 tiles and deal with whatever's there. The other one may end up going up to this position here, and then they're all going to be heading that way. So if I can get the worker into this area, and if we get lucky and something is in there that they can gather from or scavenge from, and then hopefully this worker that is Calamus's can sit down here for a while, and we could maybe have Talora's worker head north. So I'm thinking that it makes sense to maybe have Talora's worker head north back to the Granite Halls where we originally wanted to go, and I had to correct that. So we're going to have to spend an action to bring it back there. But that's okay, because I think that's going to be useful for us to gather some stuff from. And also, we're completely empty on any storage for both of our workers, so we kind of want them to do some gathering and some work. So at this particular point, the question really becomes, do I want to have... I think in the end, I'm going to probably have Talora head north and Calamus go south. We'll see how that works. I don't know if that's going to pan out nicely or not. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have Talora go... Let's first use Talora's actions to find out what's here so we don't run into too much trouble. So let's use a move action with Talora. And we are going to head Talora to the west and then north. And then once we're there, we're going to go ahead and use another action here to explore. And we're going to cross our fingers that this is a creature tile. Sure hope so, because that would make life easy for everybody. And it is awesome. So it's Vestin's Curse. That's awesome. So we got one of the creature tiles that we wanted. So now at this particular, now the other cool thing about this one is it doesn't add any abilities. So when we're setting up that creature, we don't have to worry about anything. The other thing I haven't been mentioning to you guys as well is these bag items here. You might, or icons. You might be wondering what those are for. Those are scavenging. So you can basically have a worker go there and scavenge. And if they go and scavenge, it's actually a stat on your player area, and you get to roll scavenge dice. And just so you guys know, even though I said we needed fish and we're looking for water, there is a slight chance on a scavenge die that you can get fish. It's rare because it's only 1 out of 6, so it's kind of, it's dicey, get it? It's dicey if you're rolling one die trying to hopefully land a fish. You could be there wasting actions for quite some time. That's kind of why I'm hoping to find a place that just has a resource well of fish. That would be fantastic. But anyway, we've got a creature we need to set up, so let's go ahead and do that now. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I think this one actually makes a lot of sense. So let's use this creature template, and we're going to go ahead and find the matching war banner. So I'm going to take that war banner, I'm going to place it in this area here. So we now know that, you know, Talora is going to be busy with a creature. At least it's going to be the lower of the 2 creatures that could potentially come up. So a level 2 creature has 4 health. Oh, looks like there's going to be some interesting abilities here on this one. So let's go a little bit deeper into what they mean. Let's take a moment here and talk about the new things that can be found on the stat bar for the Chaldaka Lances, which is going to be the creature that's showing up for us. So we'll put this over here in Talora's area because, again, this is going to be Talora's monster to activate in the future on her turn. So we're going to go ahead also grab from the tray here, we're going to grab a red wooden cube to denote the 4 health that this creature has, as you can see right there. You'll also notice that there's 2 green abilities. So we're going to have to pull 2 green abilities for this particular monster. We're going to grab that from the easy bag because it's green. The other thing you'll notice there to the right of that is this weird kind of reflection looking thing where something's banking off of a wall. What that is if a creature has this reflect icon with a number underneath of it, when the attacking hero, the attacking hero is going to have to reduce their current health by 1 for each point of reflect that the monster has. So the crazy thing about that is reflect always hits, even if the creature dies and is not affected by the creature's range. If a hero can hit the creature, then reflect will hit. So basically, we make any attacks that hit the creature, the reflect is automatically going to come back and hit us as well. So it's really nasty, unlike a lot of games where essentially you would, you know, if you kill the creature, then you're safe. In this case, you're still not. So that's kind of crazy and kind of a nasty surprise for us. So now what we're going to do is we've set that particular monster up. We got the war banner in place. The next thing to do is, of course, grab the 2 new abilities that are going to be on this particular monster. So we're going to shake this bag up. I'm going to reach in there and find 2, pull them out, take a look at them. So we've got Teleport and Panic. Interesting. So in order to learn more about these, I'm going to also specify something I haven't in the past yet, and you can see there that there's a star. Whenever there's a star, it's a special ability. There is going to be times where you're going to pull certain abilities from the bag. They're going to have a sword on it. The reason they're swords and the reason they're stars is because of how and when they're triggered to activate during the monster's activation. So in other words, when you're doing the monster's attack, which is the basic attack, when it eventually activates if it's still alive, and this is something that happens during the player turn. If it comes back around again and it's still alive, we would be going over here looking at the base attack of 1 and saying that's what it inflicts on whatever hero's in range based on a priority. And again, that priority has to be there in the first place. Then the basic attack happens. If there's an ability, something like this, but instead of being a star is a sword, then that sword ability is then put in with the base attack at that time. Then afterwards, all special abilities, which are what these are, come into play and are resolved in order by number. So you can see here that we have teleport is 54 and panic is 72. So we don't have to add anything to our base here or worry about when that triggers. When this triggers, this monster activates, I should say, the one attack is going to hit, and then we're just going to resolve each of these special abilities in order. You'll see more about abilities that have swords and how that actually works in real time later on. So for now, let's take this easy bag, chuck it out of the way, and we are going to move on by taking a closer look at what teleport and panic actually involve. So as you can see here, panic says all heroes within range of the creature draw one position card each and move to the marked spot. So the really cool thing with this is, and it's not really that cool, is that it's going to cause a whole bunch of havoc. It's going to basically put you out of position. It's called panic for a reason. It means you're just going to be fleeing and you don't know what direction you're going to flee in because you just are trying to get away from the monster. So that's going to activate and trigger during the activate creature step in the player turn in a future turn from Talora. So that's the panic special ability. The other special ability, which would come before it, is the teleport. And the reason teleport comes before it is teleport's 54, whereas panic is 72. Teleport would happen first, and it says the creature instantly moves to the priority target's location, ignoring any effects on the board. So the crazy thing about this is, regardless of any effects that may be on the board, so this could be, a lot of the effects are noted even here, for instance, like poison, frost, fire, those kind of things, it's going to ignore as it gets to the hero's tile. So that's nasty too. It just is going to always keep getting closer to whichever target it's prioritized. So that's just a couple of the special abilities to be aware of if we happen to let this monster survive long enough to use them. Okay, so we're going to have to play this a little interesting. We're going to do a little bit of back and forth, but the very first thing that Talora the Blessed has to do, and when I say back and forth, I'm talking in terms of how we're going to whittle this particular monster down to 0 to kill it. Because right now, Talora can only do 1 damage, whereas Calamus can actually inflict 2 damage. However, we got to remember that Reflect is going to constantly be hammering our health. I only have 1 action to spend left with Talora, so I think I'm going to go ahead and attack. I'm just trying to debate in my mind whether that's smart or not. I think it is. If I make an attack and I lose 2 health, I'll have 2 remaining. I'll have to have Calamus heal me for 1 so that I can take I can take a hit from this particular monster in the future. So I should be able to do that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make an attack. I'm only able to put 1 damage on this particular monster, so it's going to drop it down to a 3. It's not exactly the best attack ever, but the Reflect is going to hit me for 2. We want to make sure not to touch the max health, but to be talking about the actual health we have. So we're dropped down to 2 now for Talora the Blessed. And now Talora's turn is complete. So now we're going to move over to Calamus. And again, as we talked about earlier, for the player turns, we don't have any impairments. We don't have any creatures on Calamus's side of the board to activate. So we're going to go right to the hero and work our actions. Currently, where Calamus is sitting is he's not in range. Now, this is an interesting thing that everyone needs to know in terms of range. Range does not bend around corners. So unlike movement, where I can move 2 and go like this, if I have range 2, I can't shoot like that. I have to be in orthogonal patterns. I have to be east to west, north to south, or vice versa. So that's the only way that I can actually target this creature, is to go here, for instance. My range 1 would allow me to shoot it. So I would have to spend 1 action to move here from the Oakwood to the Cripplewood Canyons. From there, I take a shot desperately into Vestin's Curse, that particular area, hoping to hit it. And then from there, I'd have to see what happens. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move here for 1. So let's go ahead and expend that action right now. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make an attack action. And we're going to go ahead and resolve this by rolling, luckily, I have 1 luck die because I bumped my stat up earlier. So I have my first luck die, which is going to actually go into my attack. So I'm able to roll a luck die and resolve it along with the damage that I'm going to inflict here. And this may actually kill it. Now, we know we need 3. and I know that I currently have guaranteed 2. If I happen to land this, that's enough to kill it because that's 1 success. If I land that, that's 2 successes. So there's a good chance I could get it. 50% is nice. It will get me at 1.5, which allows me to, it would be at 2.5, which will allow me to round up to 3, which will allow me to get it. So the only way I can really screw this up is if I land the X. If I land the X, then I fail. So by having the luck die, you can see how useful that really is. So let's go ahead and roll this and see what happens. Oh my goodness. Of course that would happen. Okay. Ironic, right? So that hurts my feelings. So yeah, luck was not with me this day. Maybe I should have tried that on St. Patrick's Day or something. Okay, so shoot. Okay, so I still get 2 damage against this creature, so that's still good. I'm still going to knock him down to 1. It's not enough to kill him, sadly, but I am also going to take some reflect damage, so I'm going to go down to 2. This is bad. Now, I still technically have 2 actions remaining, and I could make an attack, and I can also heal. So right now, if I was to heal myself, I could heal myself 1. Because I have the ability to heal for 1 right here. And you are allowed to heal yourself. So I could use 1... Ooh, but here's the interesting thing. This is where you get into trouble with these 2 things. I could heal myself, but then I can't even attack. So I could choose to attack right now, but if I do, and I guarantee will kill it, because I have 2 attacks, so it's more than the 1 I need to kill it, downside is I'll end up hurting myself because I'll go to 0 health. That's no good. So what I have to do is play this a little differently. I'm going to have to either heal myself or heal my friend Talora. So, and then do something else with the other action, like maybe have my worker move closer, because I was trying to get my worker over to this area. So maybe having my worker, now that Calamus has, his whole plan of coming down here has been kind of foiled by this monster showing up and the fact Talora can't handle it. I might have to have my worker come over here and exploit his later. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's have the worker do a move action, which is just going to allow the worker to move 1. So moving from the caravan shop to the Inn of Lost Hope is sitting there. And then finally, I'm going to go ahead and do an attack and heal. And I'm going to choose to have this heal be placed on Talora because she's going to have an attack against her come next turn. So that it's kind of interesting how the combat works, because you can see I would have loved to gone ahead and just done another attack with him and killed it off, but the reflect would have then hit me and I would have been down to 0. So there's no plus in that for me. So in this particular case, that's what I chose to do. That's fully all of the actions spent, and now we're going to go ahead and begin the next round. All right, we're ready for the next round. Are you guys? I hope you are. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the very first thing we do at the beginning of the round. That is to check the story. And I can tell you right now, we are not finished the story objective yet. You can see here we need to discover 3 creature tiles. We've currently discovered 2. We've got the Cripplewood Canyons discovered. We also have Vestin's Curse discovered, but we do have a monster still on the board we need to kill, and we still need to find 1 more tile that will generate a creature. And once we do that, and also kill all of the creatures in play, then we can move on with the story. So we're going to jump past that step, and we're going to move into the time tracker. So the time tracker here is going to shift to evening now. We're getting very close to midnight, where some interesting things will happen. We'll talk more about that when it does trigger. Again, if we had any fire elements out on the board, then those things would be dwindling. But at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and go into the player turns. So the first thing we'll do is talk about Talora. We'll resolve impairments, which we have none. So the first thing we're going to do is activate creatures. We've never done this because a creature has never survived long enough to be here. It's barely holding on to life right now. So right now, let's go ahead with the steps involved with activating a creature and how priority targeting works. All right, so we need to figure out who the priority target is for the particular monster we're activating, which is the Shaldaka Lances, which is this individual right here, is going to be activating. So priority target works based on 3 steps. So first, this is in terms of the basic attack of creatures, as well as many of the creatures' abilities basically only damage the priority target. So that's one of the main reasons why you need to find the priority target. The first way to do so is to find the hero in range of the creature. So you can see here that the creature actually has a range of 2. So that means that this creature can actually hit things up to 2 away. And so both heroes, one being in the same square and one being 1 range away, which is Calamus, they're both within range. So when that's the case, you skip past that first step to determine, because the only way that it would trigger Talora in that step is if Calamus was here. Then it would trigger on, or the priority target would obviously be Talora, as the monster wouldn't have range to Calamus being around a corner. But Calamus is in range, so we move to the second step of the priority target breakdown, which is the hero in range with the highest max health. Well, there's not going to be much change there because both of our characters are very fresh and new, so we both have 4 max health and nothing has increased that way yet, so both of them, again, end in a tie. The third and final way that things are broken, and again, just to clarify, that's not the current health, it's the max health. The third and final way to determine the priority target is the hero in range with the highest max health, who is next in the turn order. Now, when they say next in the turn order, they're saying starting with the current player who is activating the creature. So in this particular case, that would actually be Talora, because Talora is the next hero to go once the actual monster goes through its activation. Because as you can see, once you activate creatures, you move to the hero worker turn actions, blah, blah, blah. It's Talora. So Talora is going to be our priority target. And then we go into the creature activation steps. Now, in the creature activation steps, there's a number of things you're going to do. So first thing is you're going to resolve impairments. That's going to be things like fire, poison, frost, all that good stuff. If any of that applies and deals damage or does anything like that, we deal with it. But we don't have any, so we'll skip past it. The second thing it's going to do is it's going to heal. It's going to heal based on what it actually has as a stat. So it's going to look in here and see whether or not it actually has the heal stat. If it does, it will heal. This one does not. So there is no healing to be had for that particular monster. That is a huge plus. Time for the basic attack. So the basic attack coming from our monster here, which is targeting Talora the Blessed, who is not feeling so blessed at the moment, is going to be taking 1 damage based on the basic attack right here of 1. Now, if any ability in this area happened to have a sword on it, it would then be included in this basic attack. It might buff it, it might make it worse, may make it, better, that type of thing. But in this case, 1 damage will be inflicted, and Talora's got to take that damage. So that's too bad for her, but she's still doing okay. The next thing that's going to happen is we're going to go into the attack all section, and this is going to happen before we resolve special abilities. So attack all is the creature performs an attack all action damaging all heroes in range. And if it has the 3-sword icon attack all stat on its stat bar. So that might be a little confusing, but what it really means is if it has this symbol, which just means it attacks everybody within range for 1. So everyone's going to get hit again, meaning that Talora is now down to 1, and even Calamus is down to 1. So that's really, really bad. So at this particular time, we're in a little bit of trouble here because the monster has been doing a decent job of messing with us. We're going to have to use a little bit more strategy to survive this. The next thing that's going to happen is the special abilities are going to trigger. And so we're going to need that sheet we used from earlier to trigger these special abilities. And these special abilities are denoted, as I mentioned before, with a star. We're going to start with teleport and then with the second one, which is panic. Now, teleport, if I remember correctly, it says the creature instantly moves to the priority target's location, ignoring any effects on the board. So teleport's useless in this case because the priority target is Talora the Blessed, so that's already resolved. However, panic is going to happen. It says all heroes in range of the creature draw 1 position card each and move to the marked spot. So this is going to be really, really interesting. So basically we're going to be pulling cards from this deck for the first time ever, and we're going to be doing it per character. So we'll start with Talora the Blessed, and we'll see where the panic has sent her. It looks like it's going to be 1 further away north. So Talora is going to be panicked and move up to the Tower of the North Wind. So that's where Talora has run off to. And then we're going to go over here for Calamus, because again, Calamus is in range, and Calamus is actually going to move to the east and then to the north. So again, moving like this and then like this. So that's where Calamus is going to end up. So the panic kind of send them running around a little foolishly. Actually, now that I look at this, no, that's correct. Yeah, so he was here, move 2. Perfect. So those 2 have been used, and we'll discard those for now. All right, so that resolves the full spectrum of the creature activation, and now we can actually get to the player turns, starting with Talora. All right, time for the player turns. So let's start with Talora the Blessed, who's hiding way back here in the Tower of the North Wind back there. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Talora the Blessed try to get more into a position to help Calamus in terms of health. We want some healing, and Talora's not the best for fighting anyway, so it's probably best to have her heal up Calamus as much as possible to the point of being able to handle a reflect attack. So Calamus currently has 1. If I was to get into range and heal twice, I could give Calamus 3 health, which is enough to kill that monster plus handle the reflect hit that Calamus would take, and we can get rid of it. So the first thing I want to do is decide where do I want to move Talora the Blessed to in order to be in range to heal. In order to be in range, I have to be orthogonal. In order to do that, I can't do it around corners. So I'm going to have to either move Talora here, or I'm going to have to move Talora somewhere else, maybe over here, but that seems kind of silly. So it makes more sense to move Talora the Blessed here, and so that's going to cost us 1 move action. Then I'm going to use a heal action here, which is going to allow me to heal for 1 on Calamus, which he's happy to take. Then I'm going to do a third action of doing another heal. This is kind of sad because, again, another way to heal in the game is for us to head back to the City of Kings. Now, there's different ways to go about this, and if you have stables in place and things like that, there's other ways to quickly get back to the City of Kings and heal. We currently don't have any of that in place right now, so we can't take advantage of that. Plus, going all the way back to City of Kings would take forever. This is a quicker way to do it, and we only need to kill and clear some of the monsters. So I've gone ahead and put another heal on, so that's going to be Calamus going up to 3. So now Calamus can actually attack on Calamus's turn and hopefully kill this particular Chaldaka Lance's creature, I hope. So we have 1 more to use. Now this is where I want to do something productive. Somebody that's going to actually help us out. So I'm thinking at this point it makes sense to maybe have our Talora's worker actually try to gather something. And the reason being is we got all these gather dice from our upgrades to 3. So why not try to gather something? So let's go ahead and grab 3 blue dice from the tray. This is actually really exciting because this is the most I've ever had. We're going to go ahead and do a work action in the granite halls, and we're going to hope that we can get some ore. We're just going to be getting a crazy amount of ore, I hope, and hopefully we'll avoid any of the attention markers. Okay, so that it didn't... actually, that's not bad. It's not terrible. I'm just checking really quick. They're called... Yes, they are attention. So this is actually an attention die. So what is this going to be is 1, 2, 3. So we gained 3 resources. So that's not bad. I was hoping for a much better roll that time. But it's decent. But we also got our first attention token. Now, how these work essentially is when attention basically is drawn, when the 4th one finally shows up, a monster appears. So what happens is these will show up in areas, basically you're making noise or you're attracting attention, and after a while, when a tile has 4, then a creature appears. So that can be bad. We don't want to trigger that, and even on rolling 3 of these dice, I could have easily rolled 3 of them, even on the next time I do it, and bam, I would be triggering a creature. So that's something to be aware of, that it can happen. So something to be aware of. Anyway, so that's all the actions for Talora the Blessed, and now we can move over to Calamus's turn. Again, Calamus has no impairments and no active creatures, so we can get right to the actions. Well, we know the first action we want to do, and that is getting rid of this ridiculously annoying creature. So we're going to go ahead right off the bat. Calamus is in range, because he has a range of 2. 1. I keep saying that they have a range of 2. They don't. They have a range of 1. And we're going to go ahead with Calamus here and Let's see. We're going to be doing an attack. What am I doing? Attack. That's what I'm doing. So I am going to go ahead and attack. Now, I'm also going to be able to roll the luck die. We'll see how that pans out. We all know that that panned out wonderful the first time. 50%. Then we basically just go ahead and get plus 50% on our current attack. So our current attack is a 2. So plus 50% would be 1 extra on top of it, which would make a total of 3, which is overkill. We don't even need that much, but it's fantastic to get it. So 3 damage is going to go against that creature, which will kill it. So we will be killing off this particular creature. Yes, finally. But the only downside is this particular reflect will still occur. So Calamus is going to take 2 damage, but not be killed. Just very close to death. So we're going to go ahead and take those green abilities. We're going to be tossing them back in the bag. Again, we always check when we're killing off creatures if they have any on-death effects, essentially. There's some creature abilities that have, or even creatures that can potentially have on-death effects or things that can trigger when they die. This one does not. So now this stat bar is going to go into the discarded pile of ones I've already dealt with. I'm also going to take this template. I'm going to toss it to say that we're not going to see it again. I may need it if we start running out of creatures, but for now I'll put it over there. That's fantastic. The one thing we don't want to forget ever is that we get XP off of this for a reward. So as you can see, if it wasn't so blurry, there we go. XP is 2. That's going to be fantastic. Now this is going to be really cool because this is going to allow us to go from 4 to level 4. We're jumping from level 2 to level 3 and then level 4. Level 3 gives us one of our first discs, which essentially is a skill disc that goes into our skill tree. We're going to have to talk about how that works so that everybody understands how that is actually implemented. And then on top of that, we're actually all going to open up another cube stat increase as well. So let's go into deciding which of the skill and stat increases that we want for each of our 2 characters. All right, let's start our level up with Talora the Blessed. So the very first thing we're going to do is come over here to the skills area, and I have a choice here. I'm really looking to upgrade into tier 1. Now, of course, you have to follow the actual structure of these tiers. So the first one here is tier 1, then tier 2, and then tier 3. You essentially have to, it's required that you start and pick skills from the bottom tier of tier 1 to start. After that, you'll see there's linkages between these and they link into different abilities. So, for instance, right now I have 1 skill disc. I can place this on any one of these 3 lower bottom areas to start. Once I place it there, then I can build off from there. You'll notice there's no linkage between the middle one and the skill reset. The skill reset's totally different, and basically you put a token there if you want to reset. You draw 1 skill card and place it here, and you basically can respend all your skill tokens. It just allows you to reset your tree, essentially. But really, the thing to keep in mind with this whole system is that you can only ever have 1 of these abilities from tier 1, and then when you move up to tier 2, you can only have 1 of these 4 abilities, and when you move to tier 3, same idea. You can't have multiple of the same tier abilities. You have to pick which one you want the most. So you can see here for Talora, she's got Remove Curse. Remove 1 curse token from 1 hero in range. It's like a heal. This one's Defend. It's a passive ability. It's going to say incoming basic attacks are reduced by 1. That's good. This one over here on the left says Eagle's Rally. If another hero is at your location tile, then your basic attack gains +2. So if you are going to stay with your heroes and clump them up, which is kind of what we're doing so far, that's actually a really good one. The other one is Bonded. Whenever you interact to draw 1 quest card, you draw an extra 1 as well. So again, we're starting from the bottom, so it's kind of hard to know which one I want to do first. To be totally honest, the passive ones are the ones I like the most. These 2 on the opposite corners are the ones I like the most. The defense one would be huge right off the get-go because it'll happen all the time. So I think I'm going to put my disc here, which is going to give me 1 increase in range. So I'm going to come over here to my secondary stat, and I'm going to bump my range up, which goes from 1 to 2. So now I actually can target things 2 away, which is great. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the stat cube for the level upgrade in terms of which one we want to bump up for Talora the Blessed. All right, so what stat increase does Talora the Blessed want? Well, guys, I think it's time to push Talora towards the final step, not the completely final step, but the final step to unlocking the second worker. So we're going to have this stat cube for the worker for gather go to 4, and now sits on what you can see here is kind of a darker tone right here on level 4. And because we were able to reach this level with one of the 3 worker stats increase, we now come down here and we are now able to unlock this worker, which means for the rest of the game, Talora is going to have an extra action. So that's fantastic going into another round here when all these get pulled out. On top of that, I have a second worker now for Talora that's been unlocked and will start in the City of Kings. And now I have even more options for getting out into the world and gathering and scavenging with that worker. All right, for Calamus Earthshaker, I'm going to go ahead and take this skill token, and I'm going to probably place it, well, this is the fun part. Same thing as Talora, I have the ability to go across the bottom here, and these are my different abilities. I've got Last Stand. It says a special attack that hits your target and all creatures adjacent to your target. This one is Warming, remove up to 2 frost tokens from tiles within range. This one is Cure Poison, remove all poison tokens from a character sheet of 1 hero in range, including yourself. And Instill Fear, place a single -1 attack token on a creature in range. These can stack. I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom right of this one, which is going to be a range. I don't get that. I'm just saying that because it connects. That's the same thing with Talora. As you can see, once I gain this one, in a future unlock for a skill disc, I can put a token in here and gain this one. Right now, I only gain this range, but I'm building towards it. So now I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to increase my range stat to 2, and now both of my characters can inflict damage from a range of 2 as well as healing. For Calamus, in terms of a stat increase, I'm going to push his attack even higher. I'm going to get him up to 3 because I want Calamus to be able to make major attacks, and I also want to get to this 5 spot eventually where it'll unlock the, you can see right there faintly, there's a helmet. That'll unlock the head slot where I can start not only getting legs and body, which are already unlocked, but get head gear as well. And we already have some pretty cool gear up here in the trade district that we need to start building towards, especially that top middle card that I'm really interested in. So that's what I'm choosing to unlock for Calamus Earthshaker. All right, I'm pretty happy with where we are so far, besides the health situation, which we're currently at 1 and 1. Now, there's a number of different ways we can get back up. We can heal each other back and forth like crazy, spending lots of actions over time. We can potentially book it back to the City of Kings, which would allow us to heal up fully. We could also, in future turns, build a camp, which would allow us to heal up to our level, which currently now is at 4, which would be quite a good healing at this point. But again, it would cost us, in order to build a camp, as you can see down here, this one in the top right-hand corner, and it's 8 fish. We don't have any fish. We need to start finding something that could have fish. But majorly what I want to do with Calamus's last reactions, the first one is obvious. I'm going to heal. I need to get myself away from the cliff and get myself up to 2 health. The second thing is I don't want to turn over any stones. I don't want to go exploring with my heroes just yet, but I don't mind exploring with my worker just to see if things pan out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my worker move 1 space and then explore to see what the worker happens to find. So the worker is going to move to this particular tile, and ooh, that's looking good. The Quiet Sea resource. This is actually the first positive tile I've seen in a while, so that's awesome. And you can see fish there. So this is a place I can finally send a worker to actually find some fish. That's awesome. Okay, perfect. That's really good. And the reason I'm so excited for that is because we have so many awesome resources, or not resources, but equipment cards up here that can be built with fish, as well as the 1 quest we currently have. Now again, guys, remember, if we're on a particular quest tile, like this one way down here, which is far away from us, we can actually grab more quests to add to the quest hub too, which would increase things. So maybe that's something to think about. What I might want to do maybe is have Talora book it back to the City of Kings to heal fully, and have I don't know how I'm going to do that. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea next time around, is to have Talora do 2 heals on Calamus to leave him out there to fight, and then use her movement to start booking it back to heal. I don't know how I'm going to do this exactly. Maybe that's where I can get some of your guys' input on what I should do next. But at this particular time, we have now burned all the actions for Calamus, and we are fully complete on the player turn. So this is definitely going to signal the end of the round and the end of the video. So coming back in the next episode, we're going to be running into the next round, which as you can see is going to move us into midnight. And so that's going to be the halfway point, because we need to get to, we have 2 full days basically to complete this. So this is going to be quite the journey. Hopefully you guys are enjoying what you're seeing so far. I imagine this is going to get a lot more. Actually, so far it hasn't been too bad. I guess besides the fact we almost died, which I'm taking a little bit too happily, I guess, or a little too easy. The fact that we almost died there, we both had 1 health. That is kind of sketchy. And we do know that the stat bars are only going to get nastier. So that last monster that's bound to come out is going to be vicious, whatever it is on that last creature tile, if we ever find it. Who knows what will happen. So anyway, if you guys have any suggestions in the comments below, let me know as to what we should do next with our current heroes in terms of their health. You know, what would you suggest we actually do to get our health back? What kind of strategy would you employ? Where would you go, knowing that we have to start flipping green tiles in order to find this final creature tile? Do we have our worker head over here to do this? Do we have our heroes head out west in order to find one of the creature tiles that way? Do we split these guys up, have Talora go back and heal, and have Calamus go up there? Do we bring them together? All that kind of stuff we got to decide. So hopefully in the comments below, I'll see a ton of suggestions, because I would love to hear you guys' opinion. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you're enjoying the playthrough. See you in the next episode. As always, keep on rolling solo.